Let's all come to a laying down position on our mats. Any comfortable laying down position is fine here. Traditional Shavasana pose has us laying flat on the back. That can be really good for your spine to reset. But if it's for some reason uncomfortable for you to lay flat on your back, you can take an alternate position, maybe planting the feet on the mat, pointing the knees up to the sky, opening up the feet and then letting the knees gently fall in towards each other. Or perhaps you'd like to bring your legs into a cross-legged easy pose position, or any which way they feel good here. Once you've got really comfortable, letting your body settle into the mat, you can close your eyes and slowly start to call attention to your breath. Just take some nice, full, deep breaths here. And notice where in your body you're feeling your breath today. Perhaps you feel your breath in the belly, the rib cage, the back. Or maybe you feel it in your shoulders, your arms. Gently start to stretch your breath out, lengthening, deepening each breath. Until with each inhale, you feel yourself filling up your lungs completely. And with each exhale, emptying out all the way. Now I'd like to invite you to bring your hands to your belly. If you'd like, you can set one hand on your upper chest near your heart. And we're going to do a breathing practice called the 3 parts breath. With our first inhale, send all of your breath deep into your belly. Feel your belly rising up underneath your fingers. And as you breathe out, feel your fingers gently falling back down towards the spine. In the second part of the breath, we're going to send all of our breath into our rib cage. As you breathe in, feel your rib cage expanding out to the sides. And exhale, feeling them gently falling back in towards the spine. The third part of this breath, we're going to send all our breath right into our upper lungs, upper chest area. Big breath in, filling up the lungs. And exhale, pushing out all the stale air. And now let's put all of those 3 parts together in a single breath. As you breathe in, first filling up the belly, then feeling the ribs open out to the sides, and finally filling up the lungs, filling your upper chest area. Rise up with the breath. Empty out in the opposite direction, emptying out first the lungs, feeling the ribs fall back into the spine, and then emptying out the belly. Let's take 2 more big, full, deep breaths with all 3 parts. Inhale, belly, ribs, and chest. Exhale, chest, ribs, and belly. One more, just going at your own pace. And then let your hands come back down to your sides. And before we start our flow, just do a simple, short little body scan here. Checking in head to toe for any sore spots or injuries. Reminding yourself that each day is different. Today on our mats, we're meeting our bodies where they are in this moment. Allowing ourselves to take a break or modify any pose if that's what feels right to us. And taking ownership of our practice. Once you've completed your body scan, made any mental notes of those sore spots or injuries, come back to the breath. Take a couple more full, deep breaths here, just being inside of your body. Blink your eyes open. Bring your arms up overhead. Stretch them out really long and stretch your feet out as much as possible. Take a big breath in here. Big good morning stretch. On your exhale, curl up into a ball, cannonball. Knees come to the chest, wrapping the arms around the legs. Lift your forehead up to your knees. Inhale, stretching out really long. Big good morning stretch, arms up overhead, legs stretching out super long. Exhale, cannonball, tight into a ball, squeeze everything together. Release the head back down to the mat. Bring the hands to the kneecaps and do some gentle circles here. Giving your lower back a little massage against the ground, waking up the nerve endings. And then find circles going the other way. And then release your arms, bringing the arms out wide in a T, and float the legs up into a tabletop, 90-degree angle on the knees and hips. Take a big breath in here. On the exhale, drop the knees all the way down to one side. If you like, you can tuck the fingers in that same side inside the crease of the top knee, and then turn your head, bringing your gaze over to your opposite hand to complete your twist. Bring your awareness to your back here. See if you can notice where you feel this stretch in your back. Maybe you feel it more on one side than the other, more in the top than in the bottom, or just noticing. Release the top hand back out to the side. Inhale, lift the knees up to center. Exhale, dropping them down to the other side, all the way to the ground. Nice and slow, keeping that 90-degree angle. Fingertips can tuck in the crease of the top knee. And turn the head, bringing the gaze over to the opposite hand to complete the twist. Check in with your back here. See if you can notice where you're feeling the stretch on this side, one side or the other, top or bottom, maybe even comparing it to how it felt on the other side. Release the top hand back out to the side. Inhale, bringing the knees up to center. And then tuck your fingers in the creases of both knees. And let's rock and roll to a seat. We can go with the breath. Take a big breath in here. As you breathe out, come up to a seat. Inhale, rolling back down. Exhale, coming back up to a seat. One more time with your breath. And make your way into easy pose. Crisscross applesauce. Feet open or tucked under the knees. Either way is fine. On a breath in, float the hands up all the way up overhead, stretching the spine up tall. Look up. Exhale, folding forward, hinging from the hips. You can bring your hands through heart center. And then release the fingertips to the ground, walking the fingers out, helping to stretch the spine a little longer. Once you find your edge, rounding out the back, relax your forehead down towards the ground. On your next inhale, slowly push yourself up, making your way back up to a seat. And drop your hands down in your lap. And then do some gentle neck rolls here. You can lean your head back. Ear comes down to one shoulder, chin reaching towards the chest, and then lifting up the other ear to the opposite shoulder. Remember, you don't need to reach all the way down to the shoulder. These can be bigger movements or smaller ones. Whatever feels right. Faster or slower. And then let's find circles going in the opposite direction. Bring your head back up to center. Let's come into a little side stretch here. As we breathe in, float the hands all the way up. Exhale, stretching down to one side, planting one hand beside you. Opposite arm is coming arcing overhead. You can walk those fingers out. And then check in with the opposite hip here. So sometimes we have a tendency to lean into that arm and the hip comes lifting up off the ground. Push that hip back down to the mat. If you like to go a little deeper into the stretcher, you can also bend that elbow. Doesn't need to reach all the way down to the ground. You can find some movement or just find some stillness, whatever feels right here. Inhale, coming back up to center, floating the hands up, stretching the spine up. Look up. Exhale, down the other way. Other hand comes down, walk the fingers out. Opposite arm is arcing overhead like a rainbow. Push the opposite hip back down to the mat. And then if you want to go a little deeper, you can start to bend that elbow. Finding some movement or stillness. Inhale, lifting back up to center, floating the hands up high. Look up. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Reaching down, switch the legs. Front leg comes to the back. Back leg goes out in front, so our legs are across the awkward way here. One more time, folding over the feet. Hands come up on a breath in. Exhale, nice and slow, hinging from the hips, keeping the spine really long as you go down. Release your fingertips, walking the fingers out, helping to stretch the spine a little longer. And once you find your edge, rounding out the back, relaxing the head and neck down towards the ground. Remember that it's not about how far you get down here. It's about how it feels inside of your body. On your next inhale, walk the hands up, back, slowly lifting yourself back up. This time we're going to bring our hands outside the knees, do a little spinal warm-up, seated cat-cow. On the breath in, roll the shoulders down and back, arching the back, lean your head back and peek up at the sky. Exhale, pushing the spine out behind you, one vertebrae at a time, starting from the base of the spine, working your way up to the head. Relax your head and neck down. Keep going, finding your own rhythm. Just moving with your breath. Don't worry about staying in time with me. Listen to your breath. Lengthening the breath. Stretching out your motions to match your breath. Feel your spine warming up. See if you can notice each of those individual vertebrae as you move in and out. Coming back to a neutral spine. Let's make our way into a twist. As you breathe in, float the hands all the way up, stretching the spine. Look up. Exhale, twisting around to one side. One hand is going to come behind us. The opposite hand resting in front of you or crossing over the opposite knee. Take a deep breath in, lifting up on the spine. Exhale, deepening the twist, bending the elbows, peeking over the back shoulder. Inhale, sitting up really tall. Exhale, twisting deeper. Back to center on the breath in, floating the hands all the way up. Exhale, down the other way. Other hand comes behind. This hand can be in front or crossing over the opposite knee. Take a deep breath in, lifting up on the spine. And go deeper into the twist as you breathe out. One more time, lifting up with the breath in. Deepening the twist with the breath out. Back up to center to breathe in, floating the hands all the way up. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Making our way now to hands and knees tabletop. You can plant your hands, roll over the knees, or just swing the legs around to one side. And then peek down. Make sure your wrists are lined up right underneath the shoulders. The knees are underneath the hips. Together, touching. Then we're going to lift up one foot. Push through the sole of the foot like you're stamping it into a wall behind you. If you like, you can lift the opposite arm up as well. If not, you can just keep that hand on the ground. Take a really big breath and stretch really long. Exhale, release hand and knee back down to the mat. Lifting up the other foot, pushing through the sole of the foot like you're stamping it into a wall behind you. And maybe that opposite arm comes up as well. Big breath in to stretch really long. Exhale, release hand and knee back to the mat. Keep going like that. Inhale, lifting up opposite arm and leg. Exhale, releasing back to the mat. Other side, lifting up. If you just want to do the leg, that's fine too. Exhale, release. 3 more on either side, going with your breath. Remember, yoga is all about tying the breath to the movement, honoring our own inner pace. Last one, inhaling to lift and stretch. Exhale, release. Other side, lift and stretch. Exhale, release. Take a big breath in here. On the breath out, tuck your toes under, lift your hips up, coming into downward facing dog, relaxing the head and neck. You can move around a little bit here. Every day is different. So maybe today your hands and feet want to be a little closer together than yesterday or farther apart. You can also open up the feet a little bit more if that feels good, or bring them closer together. Check in with your head and neck. Just relax them down. And then notice how the shoulders are feeling. You want to keep the shoulders pushing down the back, out of the ears. Making our way down to child's pose. On your next breath in, drop your knees back, coming to tabletop. Exhale, untuck the toes, sit back on your heels, relax the forehead towards the ground, let the elbows come down to the mat. Close your eyes and take a couple breaths here. Notice how your breath is feeling, especially as compared to how it felt at the very beginning of class. We're going to come back up with the breath. Inhale, lifting up the chest to tabletop. Exhale, tucking the toes under, pushing the hips up to downward facing dog. Take a deep breath in and out. And let's go back down. Inhale to drop the knees. Exhale, child's pose. Just staying here for the breath in and out. On your next inhale, lifting up to tabletop. Exhale, downward facing dog. All right, let's do our sun salutations. Moving with the breath. On our first sun salutation, we're going to take a break in mountain pose, right in the middle. Bend your knees, look forward to your hands, take a deep breath in. As you breathe out, make your way up to the front of the mat into a forward fold. Big toes touching, a little bit of space between the heels. Inhale, rising to standing, bend the knees, let your arms dangle down as you unroll the spine. Once you lift your head up, float your hands up overhead. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Big breath in here. As you breathe out, release your hands down to the sides, and let's take a break here. Mountain pose. We're going to bring our awareness to our feet here. So mountain pose, you can have your big toes touching some space between the heels, or you can also choose to have the feet on two different train tracks. Palms facing forward, shoulders rolled down the back, knees soft, tiny little micro bend in the knees. And let's bring our focus to our feet. Lift your toes up, spread them all out, and set them back down again. And then rock back and forth, really gently. Not enough to lose your balance, just enough to really wake up all the nerve endings on the bottoms of the feet. Feeling all the points of contact that the feet are making with the earth here. Give your feet some gratitude for holding you up all day long. And then find some stillness in the feet, rooting down through the feet, lifting up on the spine. Imagine you feel a string pulling the top of your head up. Close your eyes. Take a couple full deep breaths here. And let's go back down again. Blink your eyes open. Inhale, sweeping the hands up overhead. Exhale, diving from the hips. Keeping the spine long on the way down. Bend your knees, plant your hands, step back to your high plank upper push-up, and lower all the way down to the belly, dropping the knees, untucking the toes, coming all the way down. Inhale, baby cobra pose, hands under the shoulders, lifting up just the head and upper chest, keeping the elbows bent. Exhale, tuck the toes under, lift the hips up to downward facing dog. Let's do 2 more sun salutations, just like that, but this time we're going to go straight up and down with no pause in mountain pose. Bending the knees, look forward to the hands, take a deep breath in. Exhale, coming up to the front of the mat, forward fold. Inhale, rising up to standing, knees bent, stacking the vertebrae, floating the hands up high. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Big breath in here. As you breathe out, hands come down to the sides. Inhale, sweep them straight back up overhead. Look up. Exhale, folding from the hips, really long spine on the way down. Bend the knees, plant the hands, step back to your high plank. And this time, let's hold our high plank here. Really good core strengthener. If it's too much, you can always drop those knees down, but try to make a nice straight line from the head all the way to the knees. Or maybe you want to keep the knees up, pushing through the heels. One more big breath in here. Exhale, coming all the way down to the belly. Baby Cobra pose to breathe in. Exhale to downward facing dog. Last sun salutation. Moving with your breath. Remember, you don't need to stay with me. Just go at the pace of your own breath. Bend the knees, look forward to the hands. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, up to the front, in between the hands, forward fold. Inhale, rising to standing. Take your whole breath to come up. Bring the hands up high. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Big breath in here. As you breathe out, hands come down to the sides. Inhale, sweeping them straight back up overhead. Exhale, folding forward. Take the whole breath to come down. Bend your knees, plant your hands. Step back to your high plank and lower all the way to the belly. Inhale to baby cobra pose. Exhale, downward facing dog. Let's take a little break here before we start our warrior sequence. Child's pose. Knees come down to the mat. Untuck the toes. Push the hips back to the heels. Relax the forehead down. Let the elbows come to rest on the mat. If you like here, you can also take the version of child's pose with the knees together. And then you can even wrap your arms back towards your feet, palms facing up. Sometimes that feels really nice on the shoulders. Either way is fine. Close your eyes. Reconnecting with the breath. Maybe you can compare your breath now to how it felt during our first child's pose break and then also at the beginning of class. And then start to slow the breath down. Gently coming back to a nice, full, deep breath. On your next inhale, lift your chest up, coming back to tabletop. And bring the knees together to touch. Let's do our crunches here. One leg comes up, pushing through the sole of the foot like you're stamping it into a wall behind you. If that's enough, stay right there. Or maybe the opposite arm comes up as well. Big breath in to stretch really long. Exhale, elbow to knee, or just knee to nose if your hand is on the ground. 4 more with the breath. Inhaling to lengthen. Exhale into the crunch. 3 more, stretching out the motion to match the breath. Lengthening the breath as much as you can. 2. And last one. Inhale, stretching it out really long. Exhale, release, and switch sides. Other leg comes up, pushing through the sole of the foot like you're stamping it into a wall behind you. Maybe that opposite arm comes up as well, or you can leave it on the ground. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, elbow to knee, knee to nose. 4 more. Just going with your breath. 3. 2. And last one. Inhale, stretching out your arm and leg. Exhale, release, hand and knee back to the mat. Big breath in here. On the exhale, tucking the toes, lifting the hips up, downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward to the hands, take a big breath in. As you breathe out, make your way up to the front of the mat, forward fold. Inhale to standing with knees bent, stacking the vertebrae, and then floating the hands up high. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Big breath in here. As you breathe out, release the hands down to the sides. Coming into our warrior sequence now, hands come to the hips, bend the knees, and step 1 foot back. So we're going to come into a nice wide stance here. Front foot, toes pointing straight forward towards the short end of the mat. Back toes towards the long end of the mat. We've got our hips squared off towards that long edge of the mat. There's a nice deep bend in that front knee, and the spine is centered right above the hips. Now we're going to lift up our arms, peek on the back heel, make sure it's nice and high, and bring the gaze right over the front middle finger. 5 yoga jumping jacks here with the breath. Inhale, knee straight, hands up overhead. Exhale, bending the knees, slowly lowering back down. 4 more, going at your own pace. No need to stay with me. Just listen to your breath. 2, stretching out the breath, lengthening the motion to match the breath. And last one. Inhale, coming into reverse warrior. Front arm is coming up overhead, arcing like a rainbow. Back hand stretching down the back leg, or maybe wrapping back behind you. Fingers reaching towards the front hip. Gaze can be up towards the sky, if that's okay on the neck, or down towards the ground, whatever feels good there. Last big breath in here. On the exhale, windmill the arms around, planting the hands around the front foot, and then come up onto your back toes, planting whichever hand is opposite the front foot here. Bring all weight to that front hand. Inhale, lifting the other arm up, stretching the fingers to the sky. If this is too much on the back leg, you can always drop that knee down or stay really active in that leg, pushing through the heel. Last deep breath in here. Exhale, release the hand down to the ground. Step that front foot back to the back foot, coming into high plank. Lower all the way to the belly. Baby Cobra pose to breathe in. Exhale, tucking the toes, lifting the hips to downward facing dog. Let's take a little break here in between sides, dropping the knees, untucking the toes, sitting back on the heels and relaxing the forehead down. Close your eyes and take a look inside your body here. So we're a little bit off balance, having done just the one side of our warrior poses. That gives us a different perspective here. We can really see how those poses have affected that one side of our body. See if you can notice where you feel warmth in the body. Which parts of the body feel like they were just being used? Which parts feel still fresh and cool? Anything's okay here. We're just noticing the sensations of the body. Come back to a strong, full breath. Noticing where you can feel your breath moving through your body. And let's do the other side. Inhale, lifting up the chest, coming to tabletop. Exhale, downward facing dog, hips to the sky. Bend your knees, look forward to your hands, take a deep breath in. Exhale, coming up to the front of the mat, in between the hands, forward fold. Inhale to standing with knees bent, stacking the vertebrae and floating the hands up high. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Big breath in here. As you breathe out, release the hands down to the sides. Other side, hands come to the hips, bend the knees, stepping the other foot back. Nice wide stance. And I'll turn around here so you can still see the front side of me. Front toes pointing towards the short end of the mat, back toes right towards the long end. Hips open towards the long edge of the mat. Lift the arms up, peek on that back end to make sure it's nice and high. And bring the gaze right over that front middle finger. Yoga jumping jacks on this side with the breath. Inhale, knees straight, hands up overhead. Exhale, taking the whole breath out to come back down to warrior two. 4 more, stretching out the breath. Stretching out the motion to match the breath. 3, just going at your own pace. Listening to your body. 2. And last one. Reverse warrior on the breath in. Legs stay the same. Front arm is arcing overhead like a rainbow. Fingers dangling down behind you. Back hand stretching down the back leg. Or maybe wrapping back behind, reaching towards the front hip. Gaze up to the ceiling, down to the ground, anywhere that feels good. Last deep breath in here. On the exhale, windmill the arms around, planting the hands around the front foot. Come up onto the back toes, and then find whichever hand is opposite the front foot. So I've got my left foot forward. I'm going to plant the right hand down. All weight comes to my front hand. Inhale, lifting the other arm up, stacking the shoulders, bringing the arms perpendicular to the floor. Maybe you can even bring the gaze up towards the upper hand. Remember, you can always drop that back knee down if it's too much back there, or stay active in that leg and push through the back heel. Last deep breath in here. Exhale, release, dropping that hand down to the ground. Step the front foot back to the back foot, coming into high plank, and lower all the way down to the belly. Inhale to baby Cobra pose. Exhale, downward facing dog. Taking another little break here, dropping the knees, making your way to child's pose. Knees together or with some space between them. Pushing the hips back to the heels, relaxing the forehead down, close your eyes. Come back to your breath. And now let's take another look inside after we've done both sides of our warrior poses. See if you can notice any differences here between this break and our last one. Maybe the body feels just a little bit more balanced. Maybe you can feel the warmth more evenly spread throughout the body. Our bodies are never symmetrical, even though they kind of look like it. But doing a daily yoga practice can help bring those sides back into balance just a little bit more. Find your way back to a strong, full breath. Noticing the different qualities of the breath. Stretching the breath out once again. On your next breath in, lift your chest back up to tabletop. Exhale, tucking the toes under, lifting the hips up, downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look to the hands, take a deep breath in. Exhale, coming up to the front of the mat, forward folds. Rising up to standing on a breath in, take your time, float the hands up high. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Okay, let's do some balancing poses here. We'll start with our tree pose. I'll wait, coming to one side. Oh, if you feel wobbly today, you can always go over and hold onto a wall somewhere or a piece of furniture, or you can even just stand next to it. And that way, if you ever get wobbly, you just have it right there to hang on to. All weight's coming to one foot. With our other leg, we've got the knee pointing straight out to the side. 3 choices here for foot placement. You can keep the toes on the ground and set the sole of the foot right on the ankle. Raise it up so the heel comes underneath the knee. Make sure you don't push on that knee joint, or you can come all the way up above the knee on the thigh. I think today I will take the second position myself. Take a moment to find your leg balance here. Check on that standing leg hip. Sometimes we have a tendency to push the hip out to the side, so we want to make sure we're really tucking that hip in, lifting up on the spine. And once your legs feel nice and steady, if you like, you can include the arms. Inhale, sweeping the hands up overhead. Anywhere those hands feel good, fingers touching, palms together, arms out to the sides is all fine. Or maybe if you'd like a shoulder stretch, you can wrap your arms back behind you and then grab for opposite elbows, pulling the shoulders down and back, opening up the chest. Take one last big breath in here. Exhale, release, give it a wiggle, shake it out. And let's try the other side. Remember, our sides are not symmetrical, so if you want to take a different foot placement option on this side, that's okay. Just honor your body's needs. Toes on the ground, sole of the foot on the ankle. Heel underneath the knee, or all the way up above the knee on the thigh. Take a moment, make sure your legs are nice and balanced, tucking in that standing hip. And then when you're ready, if you like, include the arms. Fingers touching, palms together, arms out to the side, or maybe hands wrapped back behind you, grabbing for opposite elbows. See if you can cross your arms the awkward way this time, opposite how you crossed them last time. Pull the shoulders down and back, opening up the chest. Last deep breath in here. Exhale, release, shake it all out. Coming into Ragdoll Pose. Feet hip width distance apart. Inhale, sweeping the hands up. Exhale, folding forward from the hips. Relax the upper body down. And then grab for opposite elbows. Gently rocking side to side by bending one knee at a time and pushing the other leg back towards straight. Gives you a little swaying motion here. Just let gravity help pull all the kinks out of your spine. Before you release your arms, just peek down and notice how your arms are crossed. We'll cross them the opposite way. We're going to come back in again. Release your hands. Weight comes to the fingertips. Heel to the feet back together. Bend the knees and unroll to standing. Nice and slow, floating the hands up high. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Chair pose. Chair pose, just like mountain pose. We've got 2 choices. We can have our big toes touching with some space between the heels, or we can choose to have our feet on 2 different train tracks. Either way is fine. On a breath in, float the hands up high. Exhale, sitting back into the chair, bending the knees, pushing the hips down and back, lifting up on the spine, wiggling the toes, bringing most of the weight to the heels. So this is one of the yoga poses that you might start to feel yourself shake in. That's totally normal. Just means it's working. Focus on your breath here. Let your breath help you stay nice and comfortable in this pose. One last big breath in. Exhale, push the knees back, relax the upper body down. Weight comes to the fingers, heel to the feet out wide. Back into ragdoll, crossing the arms the awkward way, rocking side to side by bending one knee at a time. Just letting all the kinks fall right out of your spine. And then release. Weight comes to the fingers. Heel toe the feet back together. Plant your hands on the mat. Step back to your high plank and lower all the way down to the belly. Inhale to baby cobra pose. Exhale, downward facing dog. One last break before we do our cool down sequence, dropping the knees, untucking the toes, pushing the hips back and relaxing the forehead down. Elbows coming to rest on the mat. One more check in with the breath. Noticing the different qualities of the breath. Comparing how our breath feels now to different points during our practice. And then focusing on stretching the breath out. Feeling all the different body parts that move with the breath. You can even bring your awareness to your skin here, the boundary between the self and the rest of the world. See if you can notice all the different points of contact your body is making with the mat. Maybe under your fingers, palms, forearms. Maybe your forehead and your nose are touching the mat. Parts of your legs. On your next inhale, lift yourself back up to tabletop. And let's make our way to a seat. Starting here with staff pose. Stretching the legs out long in front of you. Flex the toes so the toes come towards the face. And then we're going to plant our hands on either side of our body and rock side to side just a little bit. Tucking your thumbs underneath you, if that feels good. Lift up on the spine. Push down through the curves and the bottoms of the palms. Bringing the spine nice and tall. Everything is really active here. Keeping everything else exactly where it is. Release just the hands. Inhale, floating the hands up overhead. Exhale, folding forward, hinging from the hips, keeping the spine really long. Remember, it's not about how far down you go. Listen to your body. Find your edge. Remember, you never really want to be right on the edge. Just pull back a little. You can also go in and out with the breath here. Inhaling, lifting up just the head and upper chest. Exhaling, going deeper into the fold. On your next breath in, slowly lift yourself back up to a seat. Bring your hands behind you, fingers pointing towards the hips. Lean back on the hands, and then plant your feet on the mat. Knees pointing towards the sky. Put some space between the feet. Gently rock the knees side to side. Boat pose. Knees pointing up to the sky. Start by just clasping the hands outside of the legs. And then bringing all awareness to the spine, lifting up on the spine, rolling the shoulders down the back. If this already feels like enough, stay right here. Or if you like, you can release your hands. Keep all that length in the spine. Tuck the fingers in the creases of both knees, and then lean back to float the feet. So you can stay here, or if you want a little extra challenge, opening up really wide. And if you really want a core strengthener here, you can do some boat sit-ups. Inhale, opening up, straightening out the legs, leaning back, but don't touch the ground. Exhale, back into boat. 4 more. Go with the breath, stretching out the breath. Stretching out the motion to match the breath. 3, 2, and last one. Release the feet back down, opening up the feet, hands come behind you once again. Windshield wiper the knees side to side. And let's come all the way down onto our backs. Back into cannonball, where we began. Drawing the knees into the chest, wrapping the arms around the legs. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, forehead to knees, curling tight into a ball. Releasing the head back to the mat. Bring your hands to your kneecaps and do those gentle circles with the knees. Maybe you can notice a difference between how this felt at the very beginning of class and how it's feeling right now. And then find circles going the other way. And come back to center. Release the arms out wide in a T back into our supine twist. Floating the legs in an imaginary tabletop. Take a big breath in. Exhale, knees come down to one side, keeping that 90-degree angle as much as possible. Doesn't need to be perfect. Fingertips can tuck in the crease of the top knee. And the gaze turns over to the opposite hand to complete the twist. Where do you feel this twist? Does it feel different? Similar to when we did it at the very beginning of class? Or just noticing? Releasing the top hand back out to the side. Inhale, knees coming up to center. Exhale, dropping them down to the other side, all the way to the ground, keeping that 90-degree angle. Fingertips can tuck in the crease of the top knee. And turn the gaze over to the opposite hand. Release that hand back out to the side. Knees come back up to center to breathe in. Exhale, release into Shavasana, our final resting posture. Just like at the beginning, you can have your knees pointing up to the sky, put some space between the feet and let the knees fall in towards each other. You can have your legs in an easy pose position or flat on the ground, or one leg bent and the other one straight if that feels good. Wherever you are most comfortable here, try to keep your spine nice and straight. You can bring your chin into your chest and rock your head side to side, and then let your head fall back to its natural center resting point. Hands can be by your sides, palms facing up or down. You can bring your hands to your belly to feel your breath. Release your body. Imagine you feel all the tension flowing out of you, melting into the ground. Everything is as relaxed as possible. Release your breath, returning back to natural breathing. Release your mind. Just watch your thoughts come and go, like clouds in the sky on a windy day. You see them and then they fly away and disappear to be replaced by something new. Find a few moments of stillness to complete your practice today. Blink your eyes open. Make your way back up to a seat. We'll just do a couple more poses here to shake our yoga fog. On a breath in, floating the hands up high. Exhale, folding forward. Take your time coming down. Relax the head and neck towards the ground. Inhale, walking the hands back, lifting up the chest, floating the hands all the way up high. Exhale, side stretch, planting one hand, walking the hands up. Other arm comes arcing overhead. You can bend that elbow towards the ground if you like. Push the hip back, down towards the mat. Inhale, coming back up to center. Exhale, down the other way. Walking the other hand out, opposite arm arcing overhead, pushing that hip back to the mat. Back up to center to breathe in. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Thank you all so much for joining me today for yoga. I hope you have a great